The Chicago Cubs are in full stride after being almost no hit yesterday, but they took 2 out of 3 from the Washington Nationals in our nation's capital. On the south side, it's do or die time for the Chicago White Sox as they bring their first place team to the Motor American League Central Division. It's back to football as your Chicago Bears will debut against the Cleveland Browns on the lakefront tomorrow. A couple of rookie quarterbacks made their debut last night. And we have more NFL action as the preseason kicks off this weekend. The Bulls and the NBA schedule is out, and we have some new announcements regarding ESPN's college football coverage in the fall. That and a whole lot more as the Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports starts now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Keep him on the field. And this one, a drive into left center field. Going back is Churio at the wall. Get out! For Robert Jr., his 4th of the season. And the Sox take the lead 2-1.
Armstrong gets into another one. Sends Edman back. He's watching it land in the stands. What a night for Pete Crow Armstrong. Goes wide, up the guard again. And he scores. What a play!
On Jordan Bennington, no chance at all for the Blues netminders. Connor Bedard.
Wow. Getting what a pass. Buzelis with the fade on the drive.
Motions up. They're blitzing. It's picked up. Caleb Rose, middle of the field. Loveland catch. Breaks away the 30. Loveland 20. Loveland 10. Loveland end zone. Touchdown Bears!
Welcome to another hashtag Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you're watching us live in living color right now at Sports Zone Chicago's YouTube channel, after you like the video, if it allows you to do so, please, please, please hype the video so we can get this content out to as many people as possible so we can make this show your number one destination for Chicago, the best in Chicago and national sports talk. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do not 2 hour extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show, you got to hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you dumbos to build and be boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live game. That's LIVE Live Entertainment Game. That's checking us out live and in living color right now in Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels at 12:21 p.m. Central Standard Time. But as always, much love to the replay game that's checking us out on the replay, also at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. Don't you ever forget our motto, where we talk sports, music, or entertainment. We will always provide.
We'll bring you some of the best on Second City Sports as we gear up for this busy show that we have coming up. The Bears will be gearing up for their lone home game in the preseason tomorrow against the Browns. We'll have Jacob Infante, who is the Bears and NFL contributor for Windy City Gridiron, and also from Pro Football Network. He'll join us to make his debut here. He'll talk Bears, NFC North, and NFL, and what his early impressions, and also even some stadium stuff too, because apparently that happened yesterday as well. So sports media news as CBS announced their NFL crew without Tony Romo. And also college football with it just being a few weeks away. ESPN announces their new studio squads with a few shakeups as well. The Bulls, they get 3 NBA nationally televised games. That's two more than I thought that they would get. But also to the Eastern Conference Finals will now be, well, at least for this season anyway, will be for the 2017 will be on Prime. We'll have our thoughts on that and other stuff too as we get to baseball here. First things first, as the Cubs got a tough loss yesterday after almost being no hit in DC against the Nats, but they did get 2 out of 3. They're back here. They're going to be starting a 3-game weekend series against the Cardinals coming up. First pitch starts in about an hour from now. Tough loss. They almost got no hits, and look, these things happen. Look, it sucks. It's not ideal, but look, these things happen during the baseball season. They got shut out 7-0. Jason K. Cavalli, he had a no hitter going to the 7th. Thankfully, Dansby Swanson broke up that, but even still, they get 2 out of 3. They took care of business against the Nats. Like I said, they're back here, to face the Cardinals. They're still 3.5 up on 3.5 down, I should say, against the Brewers. I'll talk about the Dodgers in a second after whatever. But first, Sid, let's talk about that Cubs Nats series.
Mm. Oh, the Cubs, as you mentioned, they took 2 out of 3 for the Washington International, and the starting pitcher for the Cubs, it was less to be desired. But what carried the Cubs, this Cubs team, was their offense. Pete Armstrong, it did his thing from the leadoff spot as usual. Now with 27 home runs of the year, it was no pun intended, but it was a coming out party for Alex Bregman, who had 4 home runs in that series, a 3-game series alone, including 3 on Wednesday, his first career 3 home run game. Also, too, Seiya Suzuki quietly waking up with his bat. He had a couple home runs in that series, too. You mentioned Dansby Swanson breaking up that no-hitter yesterday, and other guys like Pedro Ramirez contributing throughout that roster. As we said all year long, LaKeena, this Cubs team, they're a streaky team. 2+ 10-game winning streaks followed by a 10-game losing streak. And you see them hitting their stride right now. And plus, they're starting to get some guys back. You're still waiting on Edward Cabrera and Daniel Palencia, their closer. But as we said, when the pitching is down, can this offense carry this team? The answer to that question for this week has been yes. Now, when the season goes along, the Manager Craig Council knows this, when the home runs are not coming your way, can you manufacture runs on a consistent basis? That's what playoff baseball is all about. I think that's the question that Cubs fans had to be asking right now. But for this week against a lesser opponent in the Washington Nationals, when the pitching is struggling, can this offense carry this team? The answer was clearly yes.
Yeah, during those first couple of games in that series, it was really like the hitting. I know PCA, he hit his 29th home run in the first game of that series. You talked about Bregman's. Hard to believe that's his first three homer game in his career. That's a little bit shocking to say the least. But yeah, I mean, look, they did their thing. The pitching was, especially yesterday. Peterson, like I said in that game, of course, the offense kind of saved him and kind of was a saving grace for him. Yesterday was just, look, it sucks. But like I said, these type of games happen. I'm not gonna, freak out about it. But another Chicago fans, look, you took your business against the Nationals, who you had your struggles with this year. So that's the last time you'll be playing them. So you don't have to, don't have to worry about them anymore. Now, going to St. Louis. St. Louis has been kind of tricky themselves. So we'll see if they can get this, get it going here against the Cardinals. Of course, the first game will be on Apple TV Plus. So unfortunately,
Against the St. Louis Cardinals, Matthew Liberatore will go up against Clay Holmes. As LaKeena said, today's game will be broadcast live on operating is Michael McGee versus Matthew Boyd. And then for Sunday's series finale matchup, that game will be seen on ABC at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's Hunter Dobbs versus Shota Imanaga. The pitching matchups is in the favor for Chicago, but the St. Louis Cardinals have played the Cubs tough so far this year. You go back to the first series that these two teams back in St. Louis, the Cardinals, the Cubs, Chicago over 4th of July weekend. The Cardinals took 2 out of 3 from the Chicago Cubs, and this time around, as we are in the almost about the midway point of August, the Cubs and Cardinals meet again for a weekend series at Wrigley. I remember talking about this early in the year when the Cincinnati Reds, who are now currently struggling to crawl back to the 500 mark, when the Cincinnati Reds started the season hot, before they played the Cubs back in early May, I said the Cubs should send a message to the Cincinnati Reds and to the rest of the division that if you want to win this division, you had to come through Chicago. The Cubs swept the Reds in 4 straight. The Reds haven't been the same ever since. The Cubs need to send the same message again to the St. Louis Cardinals. Like LaKeena said, the St. Louis Cardinals have been struggling, playing barely 500 ball since the All-Star break. They're 61-60 right now. The Cubs need to send a message to the St. Louis Cardinals. If you want to make the playoffs and have any chance at this division, you got to come through us. And so the Cubs offense, as I mentioned, has been on fire over the last few weeks. You saw that in the Washington series. The starting pitcher is less to be desired. The starting pitcher for the Chicago Cubs need to come through in this series, in my opinion, because of what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. Shota Imanaga, I know he's turning around on a personal note, but he did not have his best outing on Tuesday. Javier Side looks like he's starting to run out of gas. Kevin Gossman, he clearly didn't have it yesterday. I know he's a newly acquired starting pitcher from the Toronto Blue Jays at the trade deadline a couple of weeks ago, but he has to get it going. Clayton Holmes didn't look good in his first start. He'll take the bump today for the Cubs. He needs to improve and get it going. So even though the Cubs are getting some healthy bodies back, his star rotation still needs to improve to help who has been on fire the last couple of weeks. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid riding solo with you. Hopefully, LaKeena McGee will rejoin me following this timeout. Just give you a rundown of the St. Louis Cardinals and some of the young players that have been making a difference for their team this year. Rookie second baseman J.J. Weatherholt is having a very good year. He's one of the leading candidates for National League Rookie of the Year. Let's not forget about Alec Burleson, their first baseman. He's always been a Cubs killer throughout his short time in the St. Louis Cardinals uniform. Walker, the young right fielder who won the home run derby last month at the All-Star game in Philadelphia. He's been killing it with his bat all year long as well. And also, too, you have Mason Wynn, the star shortstop for the St. Louis Cardinals. He's not getting it done so far with his bat, but his glove has been amazing. So, and also, too, they've been getting some surprise performances. So, the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs, they've always been historic rivals. They will be historic rivals, and this series is not going to be any different. If you're the Cubs, you have them in their backyard at the friendly confines. You need to at least, and not at the least, take 2 out of 3 from this Cardinals team before you have that big series against the White Sox starting on Monday. You trail the Milwaukee Brewers by 4 games in the National League Central. Now, the question is among many Cubs fans: can the Brewers be chased down? I think so, especially given the fact that the Brewers are playing the Dodgers this weekend. But you shouldn't be worrying about the Brewers. Go out there and take care. The Cubs are standing right now at a 71-51 record, while the Cardinals are 61 and 6. Starting in about 45 minutes from now on Apple TV Plus, as the Cubs will host the Cardinals for the first of the 3-game series from Wrigley Field this weekend. We have to take our first time out here on a Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. When we return, the Chicago White Sox had a disappointing series against the Cincinnati Reds. Now they take their now slim 2.5-game lead to Motown as they'll face off against Detroit Tigers, and we'll bring in the best and worst from Major League Baseball. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena, wherever she is, right there. We'll get her quick thoughts on the Cubs before we turn over to the White Sox following this timeout. You're listening to the Friday Funk edition of Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you live this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGetty, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports of the hashtag Friday Funk edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me. LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG is SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
And with the Wi-Fi refresh, you gotta love it. You follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
If you have any questions or comments regarding the Cubs, White Sox, and the rest of Major League Baseball, the good, the bad, the ugly from this past week, you can hit us up right now in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Just want to finish the thoughts here on the Cubs. I mean, I think if you're the Cubs, you want to take 2 out of 3 against the Cardinals. Sweeping them is probably even better at this point in the season. These are your rivals. I know they had a rough week. They lost 2 out of 3 to Philadelphia, so you kind of catch them at the right time. So we'll see. Like, hopefully the pitching. The pitching, they didn't really have to do too much because the offense kind of picked it up a little bit. But I'm going to need the pitching. I'm challenging the pitching to shut down that Cardinals lineup like they did the last time I played, which was about a few weeks ago. So just want to put a bow on the Cubs discussion. Now going to the White Sox. Well, the White Sox is one of those, hey, what happened type things where they lose 2 out of 3 to Cincy, and booking, including a tough one yesterday. They probably should have won that one, but unfortunately, Davis Martin, I don't know what's going on with him. You wonder, is there our team starting to figure him out? Is there something? Is it kind of like a mechanics thing? We know, yes, the first time it was tipped his pitches, but this has been going on for the last couple of starts now, and I think if you're the White Sox, you should be a little bit concerned. Now, you did win on Pope Leo's bobblehead day. You did shut out the Reds there. Luis Castillo struck out 10, one of his best outs in a couple of years. Detroit squad that has been playing very well, even though they traded both their top pitchers, both, of course, Tariq Skubal and Casey Mize. And they won 2 out of 3 against Cleveland. So you're catching them in a hot tip. So they're nipping at your heels. So this is a big series for the White Sox.
Well, remember, LaKeena, about a week and a half ago, I said that if Davis Martin struggles again, that he should skip a start. They should consider skipping a start. Remember, I said that about a week or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he'll be skipping more than just one start because he's been placed on the IL after what happened yesterday. Well, I'll get to what happened yesterday coming up. But as we said, since the calendar turned to June, he barely had a couple of starts, respectable starts since the month of June. Since the month of June, his ERA has been terrible, and I know he has close to a 5 ERA now, especially after what happened yesterday. But for the White Sox, it was a very disappointing series against the Cincinnati Reds. You lost on Pope Hat night. Sean Burke pitched his ass off. Had the 4-0 lead, but that bullpen gave it up and lost the heartbreaker in 10 innings. And of course, Wednesday, as you mentioned, Luis Castillo in his second start in the White Sox uniform was stellar. And 10 strikeouts in 7 innings to 2 walks, giving up just 1 hit. Very impressive for that 5-0 shutout win. Yesterday, Davis Martin, I don't think he was intentional hitting Stewart, but the home plate umpire saw it differently and tossed Davis Martin out of the game. And then everybody started yelling and screaming for like 2 seconds, overreacting. Then we went to play baseball. But the starting pitcher for the White Sox has been terrible. Eric Fetty, ever since he's been moved to the bullpen, has not pitched great. And so for the White Sox right now, they just got to get somebody to take on the burden of being that quote unquote third guy in that starting rotation. You still have Sean Burke, who's clearly your number one starter right now. Luis Castillo, he's going to be here for the long haul. He rebounded in the second start, as we talked about this past Wednesday with that 10 strikeout performance. Who's going to be that third guy to step up in that starting rotation? That's the question right now. And do you know the batting average for the White Sox offense ever since the second half of the season started? Can you take a quick guess? Real quick guess?
It's like two. It's like in the low twos, I think, or maybe even lower than that.
219. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. 219. I know that Britton Doyle, the newly acquired center fielder, has done a nice job, who was brought over in the trade deadline from the Colorado Rockies. He's done a nice job. He's platooning with Tristan Pierce, especially with starting left-handed pitching. Sam Antonacci still doing this thing in the leadoff spot. Miguel Vargas has taken a nosedive a little bit. Munetaka Murakami still has been up and down a little bit. And so the White Sox offense is barely hitting over the Mendoza line ever since the All-Star break. For this weekend series against the Tigers, remember what happened the last time they went up into Detroit back in early June? They got swept. And I think 2 of those 3 games they should have won, including their last game in that series at Comerica Park. It wasn't for that meltdown or that bullpen and bad decisions by Will Venable. But now, as I said at the top of the show, it's time to put up or shut up. It's a 2.5 game lead against the Tigers. You mentioned, despite trading at 2 past pitchers, the Tigers are getting it done right now. I know Riley Green injured his knee the other day in that series. In that series against Cleveland. But it's been Dylan Dingler, Kevin McGonigal, AL candidate for Rookie of the Year. Spencer Torkelson is beginning done. Javi Baez is back. He had a couple of nice hits in that series in that Guardians series. So the Tigers are getting it done offensively. Can the White Sox starting pitching step up and save their bullpen? That's what I'll be looking for in these 3 games this weekend against Detroit.
Yeah, Jackson Joby, of course, had a nice outing against San Francisco for Detroit. He'll be going up against Newcomb. Troy Munn, who's kind of been kind of like the new ace since, of course, Scuba and Myers, he overtraded. He faces Anthony Kay. That should be a fun one tomorrow. And Anderson against Sean Burke. But speaking of the aforementioned Sean Burke, he'll be a part of that rubber match of that series. Now, as far as Davis Martin, yeah, he's on the 15-day IL with a blister on his middle finger. I don't buy that at all, but I'm sure this is sort of a way to try to see if he could kind of maybe figure things out a little bit, maybe get a rehab start, near the end of that IL stint. But yeah, I think, I don't know if it's because maybe his command is off, or maybe it's because teams are trying to figure him out. I don't know. So if you're the White Sox, you better, hopefully, your 3 stars can kind of help, and your offense can kind of pick up the slack.
Yeah, like I said, starting pitching must be the key this weekend until to this series. Taming down that hot Tigers offense. Save that the bullpen for the White Sox is good on paper, but they've been overworked over the last couple weeks. So it'll be nice to get at least 5-6 innings out of your starting pitchers in all 3 of these games of this series. And like you said, the offense has to pick it up, be aggressive. Like we talked about with the Cubs in our last segment, this White Sox team is a home run hitting team, but can you score runs consistently without the home run? For the early part of the year, the answer to that question, it has been yes. Can they do that again this weekend at Comerica Ballpark against the Tigers? We shall see. But the White Sox offensively got to be smart, but they got to be aggressive as well. And the starting pitcher will have to step up.
We'll see if they can do that. These 3 against in Detroit. Now Minnesota's interesting. They won 2 out of 3 against Baltimore. They lost the opener to Philly yesterday, 7-1 in the Field of Dreams game. We'll get to the Phillies part of the side of it in just a second, but Minnesota's going to be a very interesting team to watch. They're 3.5 back. They got a tough part of their schedule here with this, so we'll see if they can what they can do. Cleveland, same thing, 4 back. So even if whatever happens in this Tigers White Sox series, I don't think neither team is going to run away with the division. So I think it's still going to be a 4-team race. I know all of them got to play each other at some point, so we'll have to wait and see what happens in that AL Central these next few weeks.
Yeah. Let me give you my observation of that Cleveland Detroit series. I watched all 3 games in their entirety. Cleveland looks like Cleveland's offense is starting to heat up a little bit. Joe Adell, especially the newly acquired right fielder from the Anaheim Angels, I know he hit a home run in that game, in their lone victory on Wednesday. Like you mentioned in our last show, Jose Ramirez, he still isn't running, still bothered by that right wrist injury. I know Chase DeLauder is taking a back seat. He's another AL candidate for Rookie of the Year. Stephen Kwan still trying to figure himself out right now. And of course, their starting pitches took a little bit of a nosedive too in that series against the Tigers. So the Tigers, you look at them on paper and say, well, they should be able to be beat. But, they're playing playoff baseball right now. Timely hitting in their bullpen, guys that have stepped up outside of Kenley Jansen, they have been solid for the last couple of weeks as well. Can that continue? Mm-hmm. We shall see. But Detroit is using the formula that Cleveland's been using over the last few years to win games. So you mentioned with this series with the White Sox this weekend, it's going to be tough for Chicago, but they got to come ready to play. But just give you a wrap up on Cleveland. Cleveland is struggling offensively right now, and you put that means that you put that much pressure on your pitching, and when that happens, when your pitching crumbles, your offense goes to crap. Things like this start to happen. That's why they lost 2 out of 3 against Detroit on the road.
Good. Interesting to see what they can do this weekend. Now, going into the rest of the AL, of course, the Rays, they're the hottest team in the league right now. They've won 9 in a row after sweeping the A's. Their pitching has been really solid. They went 9-0 in that West Coast trip, so they gained some ground. Taylor Walls had a couple of home runs this week. Of course, Junior Caminero is doing his thing. I think it's Cedric Mullins. I know he had a couple of RBIs as well this week, and the pitch has been really good too. So, look, I mean, the Yankees, will get to them in a second, but yeah, I think that Tampa Bay, I think they're on their way to being the number 1 seed in the AL.
Yeah, they've been playing like it all year. Even through their during their struggles last month, they still be keeping things intact. We talk about the Milwaukee Brewers all the time. Tampa Bay reminds me of the Milwaukee Brewers. I've been saying that for the longest. They play clean baseball, fundamentally sound baseball, great starting pitching, great bullpen, timely hitting. And if you make a mistake against teams like that, they make you pay. That's the formula that the Rays have been winning all year long, and they'll continue to do it. I think you're looking at your 2026 American League East Division champions by far. Give field manager Kevin Cash credit for that. Give the front office credit for picking the right type of players that fit their system as well.
And staying in the East AL East division, the Yankees, they did win 2 out of 3 against Seattle, so they're starting to, even though with that they're still trying to find their groove a little bit here. So no Aaron Judge. He's probably going to be gone till the tail end of the season, but they're doing what they're supposed to do, is taking care of the teams they should some playoff caliber teams. So the Yankees are they're still 6.5 back, unfortunately, because the Rays have gone in their hot streak. Now the Red Sox, of course, they avoided getting swept in 4 games against the Blue Jays. They got that win yesterday. Peyton Toyle pitched an 8th inning gem, only giving up 2 hits in 8 1/3. So that saved them for getting swept. So Boston is starting to fall back a little bit. So we'll see if they can get it going. But I do want to give a shout out to former White Sox and current Blue Jays pitcher Dylan Cease. He had a very solid outing on Monday, I believe, and against Boston, and he has the highest walk K walk ratio at 3.54 Ks and 3.70 walks. He did it 5 years ago. He was with the White Sox. So, of course, Nolan Ryan did that all the way back in '87. That part of it is really good. He's one of the few bright spots of Toronto. But Boston, we'll see if Boston. This is just a little. If Boston's starting to fall off a little bit.
I think Boston's going through a little tough stretch right now. And let's not forget, just a few weeks ago, they had a riding high on the 15-game winning streak. And so you have to come down from that. And things will even the South out. But I think because of that 15-game winning streak, I think Boston is, you could say that they're a playoff team. But they're just going through a rough stretch right now. As long as they play 500 ball the rest of the way, they should get into the playoffs. On the flip side for Toronto, as you mentioned, Dylan season. Me personally, as a White Sox fan, I wish he was still here, but that's not the case. But hopefully that personal record improves, because if it does, he'll be a top candidate for the American League Cy Young Award.
Yep. So we'll see what happens there. Now going to the AL West, it seems like, well, Houston, it did win 2 out of 3 against San Francisco out west. So that's all right. Texas, they've lost 3 in a row after losing 3 out of 4 to the Angels. That's a bad loss in that series for Texas. Seattle. I mean, I don't know what else to say about them. Yeah, losing 2 out of 3 to the Yankees, in addition to getting swept by the Rays, and of course losing 2 out of 3 to the Tigers. They're definitely a free for all right now. Logan Gilbert did help avoid them getting swept against the Yankees last night, pitching 6 good innings, 4 hit baseball there with the bullpen. So they're 5 back. I'm not giving up on them just yet, but they definitely really need to get it going if they want to make a run at the AL West.
Well, the time is now for the Seattle Mariners. I just said they're free falling. As I mentioned on this show all year, their offense has been hit and miss. I know Julio Rodriguez has been in and out of the lineup. Kyle Raleigh is having the opposite year that he had a year ago when he had 60 home runs. He's been injured too. Like you said, their starting pitchers are anything but stellar lately, but it's been holding up the Mariners like plexiglass all year. So the time I know we'll get to the schedule coming up in a bit, but if the time isn't now, then when is it? They have a big 3-game series on the road against Houston this weekend. So if Seattle wants to save their season, they have to bring their best against Houston.
Going to be very interesting what happens. We'll preview that series in a second. As you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago, LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown with you as we go into the National League, on our base, to wrap up our baseball power hour. We'll start with the Dodgers in the West. The Dodgers aren't, they did sweep the Royals, so they took care of business there. Edwin Diaz, you beanstalk brain, blowing another save. Of course, the Brewers, not just because of that, but the Brewers came back and beat the Dodgers thanks to Mr. Diaz blowing another save. They're gonna stick with him. Okay, I think a sit down in AAA might be in order for him. Look, they're eight back. Look, they're eight back of the Padres. We'll talk about them in a second. They're nine back of the D-bats. So I know some Dodgers fans are freaking out right now, but this continues. This is a bad loss, but yeah, they're still eight up. So the guys are starting to kind of are coming back a bit. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, the Dodgers manager Dave Roberts had a message to his team when they got back home this past Monday from their week-long road trip. He said, "Hey," just paraphrasing, he said, "Hey, we have 44 games remaining in the season. Whoever performs the best, they'll get a spot on the playoff roster. Whoever is not performing, you'll be sitting next to me." So I think Edwin Diaz, I know he just came back off the injured list. He's blown 2 saves thus far, but I think if he blows another save, I think Dave Roberts will say bye-bye to him in terms of taking him out of the high leverage situation and put him in the back of the bullpen. Tanner Scott, who failed at that position last year, he's been coming on as of late so far this year for the Dodgers in that closers role. So Dave Roberts ain't messing around. So if you're not doing the job, you'll be having a seat next to him in a hoodie. So, but I think with the players that you have on the Dodgers, they've been there, they've been tested before in years past in crucial games and crucial battles. You're going to see a big difference in this team. They swept the Royals early this week, as you mentioned. The first of the 4-game weekend series, game in the 4-game weekend series against Milwaukee, the rematch of last year's NLCS playoff matchup. They took care of the Brewers last night, despite that blown save by Edward Diaz. So you're starting to see this team come to fruition, and they will win the NL West.
Yeah, and Blake Snell looked good in his first start back, striking out 10 Royals in 6 innings. So, yeah. So, like I said, I think guys are starting to figure it out. And I know Max Muncy had that RBI in the 10th on Tuesday. So, I think the Dodgers are doing their thing. Now, the Padres, I know they've won 5 in a row. They did sweep the Brewers. So, like I said, I don't know how to figure this team out. I mean, you thought that maybe you had to figure it out. I know Jackson Merrill has had a couple of big hits during that series against the Brewers. I don't know. Look, just when you thought that maybe the Padres have started to figure things out, they, go into free fall. It's been the theme for the last few years. So, could they sneak into one of the playoff spots? Maybe, but I'm not buying them just yet. Wake me, by the end of the month.
You can say that about Arizona too, but Arizona is a new transitional team, so I'll leave Arizona alone just a little bit. But like you said, you mentioned about the San Diego Padres. They have all those big namers. So Fernando Tatis Jr. You mentioned Jackson Merrill, Xander Bogaerts, RP Jerry Remy. You have Fernando Tatis Jr. I just said his name for the third time. You still have Manny Machado, who's been struggling, but he's been picking up as of late with his bat. You still have Gavin Sheets for all that's worth. And so the problem for San Diego, as we talked about with Seattle just a moment ago, inconsistency on offense. They have to pick it up and help with the back end of their starting rotation as well. Those 2 areas they have to pick up on. And if they can, they will have one of those 3 wild card spots. I think Philadelphia, I know we'll go to the East in just a sec, but I think Philadelphia has to lock on that second wild card spot. I think the Cubs are in first right now. It's just about 4 or 5 teams left to grab that last third and last wild card spot. Can the Padres get on a little bit on a run to secure that third wild card spot?
Phillies, speaking of the Phillies, as we go to the NL East, they get a win, that a Field of Dreams game against the Twins. I don't think have they found that Kyle Schwarber's leadoff home run.
No.
The 3 home runs for the Phillies as they beat the Twins there. But they've had their struggles lately too. They lost 2 out of 3 in St. Louis. So now they're 9 back. They're still in the thick of it for that wild card spot, but they've had their struggles lately. I still think they're going to get into the playoffs. I think that team's too good. Like I said, they need to figure out that bullpen situation. They should have traded for a bullpen guy, but I digress. But yeah, as long as guys like Schwarber and Harper, as long as they're hitting, I think they should be okay.
A couple quick notes from that Field of Dreams game last night. No, I did not watch the whole thing, thank goodness. I just caught a couple of clips right here on YouTube. One, shout out to Ferguson Jenkins, Cody Clemens, who's on the Minnesota Twins, and of course his dad, Roger Clemens, who doesn't look that much different from his playing days in that old ass Red Sox uniform. That was a great moment, bad acting, but a great moment as all those guys came out the cornfield at the start of the game. And
Mhm.
number two, LaKeena, call me crazy. You won't catch me wearing the Twins throwback uniform, although they do look nice. But I'm not. I don't know if you checked out the Phillies uniform so last night. They're not too shabby. I might pick up one
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah, I like those Phillies units that they wore for that. And look, you know me, I'm kind of old school when it comes to that. I like the big old P in
Hmm.
the middle, and they had the powder blue when we were way back in the '80s. I
Yeah,
like
they
those.
still have those in rotation.
Yes, they do. And Minnesota, like I said, I like those the ones from like in the '90s when the '87, '88, '91 when they won the World Series. I like
Yeah, yeah.
those unis. Although the current one's not too bad either, but I like the old school ones. But yeah, I think look, I saw a little bit of the highlights. The presentation was pretty good yesterday, so I want to see how it did ratings wise, but a solid outing. It sounds like, so it looks like it was a good time by all last night.
Yeah, you mentioned about the Phillies winning that game last night. We'll see because they'll have two more games starting tomorrow and Sunday to wrap up their series against the Minnesota Twins. The Atlanta Braves continue to catch fire. They win their series against the New York Mets. The Pittsburgh Pirates, they take care of the Miami Marlins, even though the Marlins won the series finale on Wednesday. Let's see. There's the Miami Marlins. I talked about them. They're trash. And of course, the Washington Nationals. They lose 2 out of 3 against the Cubs, but they did win the series finale yesterday, about a score of 7-0. That's your wrap up of the NL East division. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and LaKeena here with you. As we wrap up our Baseball Power Hour, we'll give you the schedule for this weekend around Major League Baseball. As we mentioned, the Chicago Cubs and the St. Louis Cardinals will first pitch will be less than 25 minutes from now from Wrigley Field. You can see today's game on Apple TV Plus exclusively. The other games are as follows. Of course, the Chicago White Sox will travel to Detroit to take on the Tigers. Other matchups are as follows. Miami will visit Cincinnati. Boston would face Pittsburgh. The Baltimore Orioles will take a trip to Tampa to face the Rays. San Diego will visit Cleveland this weekend. Go San Diego as a White Sox fan. The Washington Nationals will travel to New York to face the Mets. Arizona will face the red-hot Atlanta Braves. The New York Yankees will travel to Toronto to face the Blue Jays. The first game of that series will be seen tonight at 6:15, exclusively on Apple TV Plus. LaKeena Seattle Mariners, as I mentioned earlier, they'll face Houston on the road for a big 3-game series. I think it's do or die for the Mariners for as far as this year is concerned. Kansas City will visit Los Angeles to take on the Angels. Texas will visit the Athletics in Sacramento. And the Milwaukee Brewers will resume their 4-game weekend series as they take on the Los Angeles Dodgers. And tonight's game can be seen on ESPN Unlimited. And your national television schedule looks like this. Your Fox Saturday baseball game of the week, most of the country will get Milwaukee at Los Angeles. Others will get Boston at Pittsburgh. Or Arizona and Atlanta. Coverage will begin at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time tomorrow night, exclusively on Fox. But before then, at 3:10 p.m. on FS1, the Washington Nationals and New York Mets will do battle in the second game of that 3-game series. And your schedule for a Sunday on Peacock's Game of the Week will have Baltimore and Tampa Bay. They can be seen on Peacock and NBCSN. And Sunday Night Baseball on NBC at 6 p.m. It's the Seattle Mariners taking on the Houston Astros. And that's your schedule for Major League Baseball for this weekend.
And with that matchup against in that Peacock game, of course, Jason Minetti will have the call of that matchup too. So it should be a fun one too. Also, Brady Anderson and Brian Roberts will join in with Dave Fleming this week. So that should be a fun one with those three. So that is your schedule for this weekend in MLB.
Stay tuned for more sports and more fun as the second hour of Second City Sports continues with Jacob Infante from Windy City Gridiron talking Chicago Bears and NFL. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on the hashtag Friday Fun Edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me. LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, once again, the IG.
As we kick off hour number 2, talking Chicago Bears and the rest of the NFL, we'll give a little preview of the Bears-Browns preseason debut for 2026 with our very special guest coming up. If you have any questions or comments regarding the Bears and or the NFL for this half hour, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
He is the Bears' NFL draft contributor for Gridiron. He also just started a new newsletter from Pro Football Network. We'll ask him about that as well. So we got a lot to get to him. So let's welcome for the first time on Second City Sports, the one and only, the super cool Mr. Jacob Infante. How are you, Jacob?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, guys? I appreciate you guys for having me.
No problem. Now, I know we got a lot to get to with you, so let's get right to it here. Now, of course, the big story, well, outside the stadium stuff, we'll get to that in a little bit, but Kobe Bryant's injury, we thought that he would probably be back somewhere, halfway through the season, but now it's going to be 4 to 6 months. So, so what does that concern with the secondary, especially with Kyle Gordon and his injury questions? And what do you think about this whole thing, how that affects the secondary?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big loss for the Bears. I mean, they signed him to a contract in free agency with the intention of he's going to be an upgrade in the secondary. I mean, obviously the Bears generated a lot of turnovers last year, but looking at it from a consistency perspective, they also gave up a lot of big plays. And given the fact that turnovers are tough to replicate year over year, I mean, it's possible that the Bears have as many interceptions as they did last year, but it's historically difficult to stay near the top of the NFL in that every single year. Uh, so given that, I think you could see the Bears have a very clear mindset of, all right, we want to go for consistency over the boomer bust plays in the secondary. And Bryant was supposed to be a guy who'd really lead that charge. So not having him for most of the regular season, if not the whole regular season, we'll, have to wait and see how that all plays out. But obviously that's a big loss for Chicago. He's an incredible football player. Analytically, he was 6th in the NFL and Pro Football Network's safety impact scoring last year with the Seahawks. So definitely a big loss there. I do think that bringing in Xavier Woods off of free agency is a decent enough addition. Like all things considered, he's definitely a step down from Bryant, but he should still be a solid starter. You still have him and Dylan Thieneman at safety. I feel comfortable that they're going to be competent at least in the secondary. My big question is the cornerback room. Tyreek Stevenson entering a contract year. He's been all right his entire time in Chicago, but he hasn't truly ever taken that next step. And then you also factor in Kyler Gordon, who still isn't practicing. It's a little bit of a concern with his availability at this stage, and you can kind of tell the frustration within the building is mounting, week by week with the more he doesn't play. So there are concerns with the secondary now. I don't think that it's a bad unit with Kobe Bryant gone. I think the safety duo should still be competent, but definitely a big loss for Chicago for sure.
For their preseason debut tomorrow, of course, we have to remind fans that this will be the Bears' lone home preseason game against the Browns. Of course, the next 2 weeks they'll be on the road. But I know head coach Ben Johnson announced that a lot of the starters will not play tomorrow in their preseason debut against the Cleveland Browns. I want to stick with that secondary just for a second, Jacob, with my next question. Cam Lewis, who's been having an up and down camp, filling in for Kobe Bryant, of course. You talked about Tyreek Stevenson, but I want to ask you about Malik Muhammad as well. And assuming that both those guys will get a lot of playing time tomorrow, where do you expect out of those two guys? I know Malik Muhammad has been getting a lot of pub here ever since camp started a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so honestly, I'm excited about Malik Muhammad. I think that coming into the draft, I was a big fan of his tape. I had him as, a late 3rd round pick, and the Bears ended up getting him in the late 4th round. So, I mean, Muhammad was a top 100 prospect on my board this year. So to be able to get him where they got him, I thought was probably the best value. Him and Thieneman were the best value selections the Bears made this year. Muhammad, it's going to be interesting because he was an outside cornerback at Texas. And if he stays there, then naturally it's going to be, all right, he might be the successor to Tyreek Stevenson, who's in the last year of his rookie deal. He might not be brought back next season. But he's also been taking some snaps in the nickel. He's also been, factoring into the slot conversation. And there were some evaluators who thought, okay, Muhammad, he's a little skinny. He's about 180-ish pounds, give or take, at 6 feet. So a little bit more wiry than some of the other corners, and that might push him inside the nickel. And he has been taking some snaps in the slot. So that'll be interesting to watch to see if he's more inside or outside here in the, in the preseason. That'll be a general indicator, I think, about whether the Bears see Muhammad more as a Tyreek Stevenson replacement or as a Kyler Gordon replacement. And that's not to say that both of those guys are for sure getting pushed out of the Bears organization by any means, but there's a scenario in which both of them leave. So it's good to have young insurance policies like Muhammad on the roster. He was somebody declared for the draft a year early, so I believe he's only 21 years old. Mm-hmm. He's pretty young. He's got a lot of talent, good fluidity, good route processing instincts. scrappy. He's a competitor as well. So I like what he put together in college. I'm excited to see what he can do in the preseason. He's one of the guys that I'm probably the most excited to watch here in this preseason. So, we'll just have to wait and see how he performs and whether or not they have him more in the slot or whether they have him outside. But either way, I think there's starting upside. It may, if it's not in his rookie year, I think in year 2 he could be a starter for the Bears.
Well, Muhammad was all SEC, second team all SEC at Texas. So, yeah, I know how pretty speedy he is, coming out of corner.
Oh, yeah.
Now, so let's talk about the offense. We've had to go on for like about 7 minutes, Jacob. We haven't talked about the offense yet, but let's talk about the O-line because apparently, I guess, do you have any updates on Ozzie Trapillo? Because apparently we thought that he'll probably be done for most, not all the year. Now they're saying that he might be back, week 1. Coming back from that kind of injury. Do you have any updates on that?
Yeah, I mean it's crazy to think about, but it is looking like Ozzie has a legitimate chance to play week 1 for the Bears. And I mean, we'll see if he starts right out of the gate. I think you're looking at him as, the starting left tackle, ideally of the future for Chicago. His rookie year making the switch, not just from college to the NFL, but switching from right tackle to left tackle, which is a position he hadn't played at Boston College in a couple of years. I mean, he was a right tackle most of his time there. A big adjustment all across the board, but he did pretty well. All things considered, some ups and downs as you'd expect for a rookie tackle, but definitely showed some intriguing flashes. So it's definitely rare to see this quick of a recovery from like a major, Achilles injury like Ozzie had. But it's also, it's exciting. I think that I don't think they should rush him necessarily, but if he's genuinely ahead of schedule, like Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson have seemed to indicate in press conferences, man, I mean, I think it's going to be pretty exciting to see him back in the starting lineup. So will he be back for week 1? I mean, time will tell. These next few weeks are going to be really telling as far as what that recovery process looks like. If they have to go with Braxton Jones or they have to go with, Jedrick Wills or even Karana Magaji, so be it. But he's definitely ahead of schedule for sure, by all accounts. And it's a pleasant surprise, especially with the bad news with Kobe Bryant coming in, where, you thought he was going to be out for 8 to 10 weeks. And then he, elects for the surgery. It's going to keep him out longer. I mean, in the long run, that's going to help him out as far as the recovery and keeping that athleticism. But it does mean he's going to miss more of the season than he would have otherwise. With Ozzie, though, it's definitely, good news where his recovery is going a lot faster than people anticipated. So we'll have to wait and see. But by all accounts, it does sound like it's possible that he does return for week 1 of the regular season.
Jacob Infante from Windy City Gridiron is joining us right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago on the hashtag Friday Fun Edition. Sid LaKeena hanging out with you, talking Bears and NFL. Let's stay with the offense, Jacob. I want to ask you about Caleb Williams, year number 2 in Ben Johnson's offense, year number 3 overall in the NFL. Of course, he got all the pub in the offseason, being mentioned in a couple of rap songs by Drake and Lil Wayne. He's a new cover face of the Madden NFL 27 video game. Ben Johnson said the other day in his presser that he wants this Bears offense to be the best offense ever. Caleb Williams has not, as of yet, has passed for 4,000 yards. What do you expect out of Caleb Williams in year number 3, year number 2 in Ben Johnson's offense?
Yeah, I mean, so the hope is that he zeroes in like exactly what he did last year. He zeroes in on a weakness and just attacks it until it becomes a strength in his game. I look at last year, his sack avoidance got so much better in 2025 than it was in 2024. Part of that was, okay, the offensive line's a lot better, but also when the O-line did allow pressure, Caleb did a much better job of knowing when to abandon ship, when to move out of the pocket, when to climb the pocket, how to sense pressure. And his sack avoidance went from, he was one of the least efficient as far as, avoiding sacks as a rookie to one of the best as far as the amount of, looking at the amount of times he was pressured, how many of those end up in sacks. Caleb's ratio is really low, which is fantastic. And I think that that gives me hope that he saw that weakness and he like really strongly got better at that. That gives me hope that the accuracy can continue to grow, because the footwork in particular was a weakness of his last year. I know some of the haters, they tend to point to the completion percentage. It's like, oh, his completion percentage was 50 something. It wasn't as high as it needs to be, which is true. Definitely some areas where he can get better. I think a lot of that comes down to comfort in the offense. Ben Johnson's system is so intricate, and it's so there's so many different things, like from a timing perspective. I pointed out in a tweet recently, you saw some of that with his time in college with Lincoln Riley too, where year one in the system, the elite arm talent showed up, the creativity outside of structure showed up, the athleticism showed up, and he made some really big plays, but some of the accuracy was a little inconsistent because you still getting the timing down and still getting the foot, the footwork, the mechanics down. And then in year two, his sophomore year of being in Lincoln Riley's system, he made the jump from Oklahoma to USC, but it's still the same coach. It's still the same offense. That's when you really got to see that comfort in the offense shine. That's when his footwork looked a lot better. His accuracy looked a lot better. And then that's when he had his Heisman season. And then that's what really thrust him into the national spotlight. So I have hope that the accuracy is going to get better, because there's so much to work with Caleb. The arm talent is out of this world. He's a really good athlete. He can make plays in the clutch like very few quarterbacks in the NFL can. He has a special playmaking ability. He has the potential to be one of the NFL's elite. I don't think he's quite there yet, but I think that if he attacks the consistency weakness from an accuracy perspective that he had last year, if he makes that jump this year like he did with sack avoidance last year, I think the sky's the limit for him. And I think the sky's the limit for this offense. And I know it's a really high bar that Ben Johnson set. He wants to be the highest scoring offense in NFL history, but I think they could really, really do some damage if Caleb can make that leap from year 2 to year 3.
Talk about the guys who he's going to throw to. Of course, we know the burden is going to be out for all the rest of the preseason. But Roma Dunze, him, of course, Cleve Raymond, who they brought up, of course, Colston Loveland. Who among those guys could probably have that big breakout year this year?
It's tough to tell, because I think like looking at all three, the top guys, Luther Burden, Roma Dunze, Colston Loveland, I think all of them have star potential. And I could realistically see any of them stepping in and leading the team in receiving. If I had to guess, though, I'm going with Luther Burden. Call it biased. I mean, I went to Mizzou. Luther Burden was my favorite college football player of all time. And, when the Bears drafted him, I didn't even think it was a possibility that they were going to select him. I didn't think he'd be there in the second round. I didn't think the Bears would take a receiver that early. And lo and behold, it just happened to work out. So I definitely recognize I have some bias there, but at the same time, he was on a pace for over 1,000 receiving yards last season in the second half of the year. I think it was week 10 onward. If you take that pace and, put it over 17 games, that's over 1,000 yards receiving. And that's as a rookie. So that's not too shabby at all. I know he led the NFL in yards of separation per catch, according to our database at Pro Football Network. And he was also tied for second in the NFL in yards after catch per reception. Just super efficient. He's just a dynamic athlete. His ability to make guys miss in the open field, his ability to run through tackles is already some of the best in the NFL. And you could see as the season went on, he got more comfortable with understanding, the depth of his routes that he needs to run, the timing, the pacing, how to work himself open against different coverage looks. Burden was just really, really good last year. I think Loveland has a good chance as well. And Odunze, I'm not sleeping on either. I've seen people think, they could have 3 1,000-yard receivers next year or this coming year. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think they're, going to spread the ball around a little bit more, where you have Khalif Raymond, you have Cole Kmet, you have DeAndre Swift, having a decent role in the offense as well. But I think there's a chance all three of the top guys could surpass 800 receiving yards for sure. And then you spread the rest around the rest of the offense. But they have a really talented group. Burden's my favorite to lead the team in receiving. But You know, Loveland was phenomenal in the second half of the stretch earlier, and Roma Dunze was on pace for over 1,000 yards before he got hurt. So he's not somebody to sleep on either.
Sticking with that wide receiver room, Jacob, out of these young guys going into his second year now, Ja'Day Walker, of course, he had that big catch in last year's regular season matchup against the Packers that forced overtime, which eventually led them to the win in the division title. Rookie wide receiver Xavier Thomas. Also, you have Maurice Alexander and Omari Kelly as well. I'm assuming all those guys will get big time action tomorrow. Out of those names I just rattled off, who do you think is going to step up out of those young wide receiver core, those backups?
I'm interested in seeing what Xavier Thomas is going to do. There was a lot of talk about him when the Bears selected him. The consensus was it was a reach in the third round. You know, personally, I thought it was a reach in the third round. I don't say that to be a Debbie Downer, but just off of my tape analysis on him, I wouldn't have taken him that high. But at the same time, obviously I trust Ben Johnson. He's a phenomenal phenomenal offensive coach. Looked really, really good from a play calling perspective, from an adjustment perspective, clock management perspective as a rookie head coach. So I trust him, and I trust that he's going to be able to get the most out of Thomas and his offense. I do think as a route running technician, he's a little bit raw. So I'm curious what his full route tree is going to look like in his rookie year with the Bears. But I think he's going to have plenty of chances to shine in the preseason game tomorrow. I think you have a guy who's that fast, who's that athletic. Naturally, you're going to have to respect his deep threat ability. You're going to have, a safety, over the top. You're going to have to bracket him sometimes. And I know a big calling card of the Bears offense is the dagger concept, where you have the slot receiver running a go route and then you have an outside receiver running a deep in. I think Thomas can be a guy who can just run that go route because of how fast he is, just go straight down the field. With a guy that fast, you're going to have to respect it, and then that's going to open up an opportunity underneath for the deep end, whether it's Rome or Luther, even Ja'Day Walker running that deep end. I think Thomas has the opportunity to set up chances for his teammates to succeed, as a decoy, so to speak. So in the preseason, I think Thomas is going to get a good focus. I don't know exactly what his role is going to look like on offense as a rookie. I think he's going to play a decent role in the return game, but on offense, we'll have to wait and see. But I'm definitely excited to see what Thomas is going to do in the preseason for sure.
Now let's talk about the rest of the NFC North. I think we can all assume it's going to be pretty competitive. Detroit, they could give back. Green Bay, we know Parsons is going to be out for a few weeks going into the season. Minnesota, you don't know what you're going to get. So, especially now that Kyler Murray is going to has been named the starter. So, where do you see the NFC North, Jacob?
It's going to be tough. I'm going to be honest. It's a very competitive division. I think all four teams have a chance to make the playoffs. Obviously, not all four teams can make the playoffs at once. At least one team isn't going to make it. But I mean, I look around the league. I think the Bears are. I feel decent about their chances of repeating as NFC North champions. I feel more comfortable saying they're a playoff team than I do as a division winner, because the Packers. When Tucker Kraft and Micah Parsons were healthy, that was a really, really good team. Obviously, they fell off once both those guys got hurt, and then they didn't look quite the same. But once those guys come back, I think this is potentially a very dangerous team with a really good offense. The Lions have so much star power on their roster. They're maybe not as well-rounded as some of the other teams in the division, but I think their top-end talent is the best in this division. And then I can't rule out the Vikings either. They went 9-8 with bad quarterback play last year, and the hope is that Kyler Murray is going to be an upgrade for them at the position. They didn't lose too much talent in free agency, and if they get better at quarterback, there's reason to think they could be a wild card team. So I think the Bears make the playoffs. I think it could be a situation where maybe they go like 11-6 or 10-7, and they tie for first place, and then it's just whoever wins the tiebreaker wins the division. So I'm iffy on if the Bears will repeat as division champions, I'll be honest, but I do think they make the playoffs again, whether it's winning the division or if it's as a wild card team. And I will say that even if the Bears don't do better than the record from last year, even if they repeat going 11-6 again, or even if they go 10-7, one win fewer, it's a really tough schedule. It's a really tough division. As long as Caleb continues to grow, as long as the offense looks good, then I'll be perfectly fine with that. And then you have a good amount of resources to spend on defense in free agency in the draft next offseason. And that's when you can really push your chips in all on the table.
We're heading down the home stretch with our guy Jacob Infante from Windy City Gridiron right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena hanging out here with you, talking Bears and NFL. Jacob, I know it's very early. I know the preseason action is kicking off this weekend, but as of right now, on August 14th, 2026, at 1:26 p.m. Central Standard Time, where do you see the Bears stacking up against the rest of the NFC? Of course, you had the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC East. You have the Los Angeles Rams, the quote-unquote super team out there with Myles Garrett, via Trey, Aaron Donald's coming back, even though it's not official yet. You still had the San Francisco 49ers, and you had the defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. Where do you see the Bears as of right now being stacked up against the rest of the NFC?
So it's tough because I don't think they're at the level of the Rams or the Seahawks, just realistically. And I think the defense is a big reason why, the defensive line in particular. And sure, there's a chance that, some of their young guys step up and break out, but, I'll believe it when I see it with them. I think the Bears are in that second tier of, this is a playoff team. This is one of the best rosters in the conference for sure. I'd put him in that second tier where, you mentioned, like the 49ers, the Eagles, the Packers, even the Lions, maybe. Vikings, I think, are close. And maybe even the Cowboys. I mean, it's a pretty crowded second tier of teams. I think the Bears are in that second tier. I think they're one of the better teams in the second tier for sure. I think that if it comes down to it, the Bears play any of those teams at home in the playoffs, I think they can beat them. On the road, even, I think the Bears could, march in somewhere like San Francisco, march in a Lambeau or something like that, and realistically have a chance to beat any of those teams. But I think the Rams, that roster is just too stacked right now. They're going all in 2026. They're going to lose a decent amount of players in 2027. Matthew Stafford probably only has like a year or two left in him before he retires, given his age. So everything lined up perfectly for them financially to just go all in and be aggressive in spending. I think in the future, the Bears are more well set up to compete than the Rams. But I think for this year, the Rams are the best team in the NFC. And then obviously the Seahawks, they keep most of their core from that Super Bowl season last year. Lost some guys, lost some contributors, obviously, because you're that talented of a team. You can't afford to pay everybody. But still a loaded group with a really good head coach in Mike McDonald. I think that until they give me any reason to see otherwise, I think that the Seahawks are still in that top tier in the NFC on paper. So the Rams and the Seahawks, I think, are in a tier above everybody else. But then I think the Bears are in that group who's right underneath them. Depending on how the playoff bracket shapes up, I think there's a chance they could make it to the NFC Championship game. I'd obviously be ecstatic with that. Making it to the Super Bowl this year, I think, is going to be tough. I think that's more of a 2027 vision, but playoffs for sure, I think, is reasonable.
Last question for me, Jacob. How about on the AFC side of things?
The AFC is going to be interesting. I don't think the Patriots are going to repeat as champions. I think that, they were active in free agency, but I think that, it's the first year of, of Mike Vrabel being their head coach. I think, there's a lot more tape on Drake May and that offense now. That offensive line worries me. Obviously that was a big weakness of theirs in their playoff run. I like the Broncos, honestly. I think the Broncos or the Bills are probably the top two teams on paper in the AFC. The Broncos were Bo Nix being healthy and not playing in a blizzard away from making it to the Super Bowl. And even then they were really close to beating the Patriots in that game. So you have Bo Nix back healthy. You have Jalen Waddle that they traded for some additional offensive firepower. They kept most of their starters from last year. A lot of continuity. It's a really good coaching staff in Denver. And then obviously the home field advantage with the altitude whenever you have teams, coming in there. It's not easy. It's not easy to win there. So I'm leaning the Broncos. I think the Bills, if Joe Brady turns out to be a good head coach, they could make some noise as well. But, I'll say Broncos. I think it'll be Broncos-Rams in the Super Bowl this year, and then I think the Rams take it. Matthew Stafford retires on top, and then that's when, the Rams move on to their next phase and, what things look like over there.
All right. Last question for me, Jacob. Me and LaKeena, we're going to mute ourselves just for today about this issue going back to the Bears. But how sick are you as far as this stadium issue? Of course, Kevin Warren and George McCaskey both talked with the media yesterday. Really didn't say much to the fans, in our opinion. If you want to just roll your eyes at us or just give them the turkey bird, whatever, we'll allow you to do that on this show. But what are your thoughts about this stadium situation? When will it end?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a stalemate between Kevin Warren, the McCaskies, and the state of Illinois, and no sides budging. And I mean, look, you can say whatever you want. I don't want to get into the politics of it all because I'm not informed to have an extreme stance one way or the other. But I do think that the lack of progress on either side is concerning. I think the Bears have a very clear vision about what they want, and the state of Illinois is not going to give it to them. I think that if Pritzker is looking to make a presidential run, it's not a great look within the Democratic Party to be like, oh, well, he provided tax breaks to a billionaire family. I don't think that's going to be a very good selling point for his candidacy. But at the same time, though, it's also, I mean, Illinois is primarily a blue state. I don't think he'd lose re-election by any means, but it could hurt his approval rating if he becomes the governor that, under his watch, the Bears left for Indiana. And, but I do get the sense, though, that Kevin Warren and George McCaskey, they want to stay in Illinois. I feel like if they wanted to move to Indiana, they would have done it by now. They have every reason to, at least from a financial perspective. So that makes me think that, Illinois is very clearly their top choice. Indiana's just, it's a backup option, or, if that, it might just be, leverage that they're trying to get from the state of Illinois. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think, you bring in Kevin Warren to get the stadium done. It hasn't been done yet. I can't speak, like, I'm not in there when negotiations are going down. I don't know if it's more of a Kevin Warren thing or a George McCaskey thing. But I will say the lack of movement is very frustrating when you consider that the Bills, I'm trying to remember, someone told me, pointed it out that I heard recently, but the Bills announced their plans to move to a new stadium around the same time as the Bears. And the Bills are kicking off, like, they've opened their new stadium already, and the Bears haven't even put shovels in the ground. So I think that's just an indictment on all parties around. Again, I'm not in negotiations. I can't say definitively who's at fault, whether it's the Bears or the state of Illinois. I'm just frustrated about the whole thing altogether. I just want it all to end, honestly. And if that means the Bears move to Indiana,
yes,
so be it at this point. I just want it to be over with more than anything.
Well, we'll leave it there, Jacob. Thank you so much for joining us today. Where people can find all your great work on social media and on WindyCityGridiron.com and all the other good stuff.
Yeah, so you guys can find me on Twitter /X at Jacob Infante 24. The full-time job is Pro Football Network. That's like NFL wide and NFL draft coverage. You can check me out there. My Bears specific stuff is mostly over at Windy City Gridiron, the SB Nation page that covers the Chicago Bears. I also have a Bears newsletter that I appreciate you guys mentioned near the top of the show, or at least the top of my spot. I appreciate that greatly. It's linked in my social media platforms there on Instagram, which is also Jacob Infante 24. I have an article out every single day during the week, covering the Bears. It goes straight to your email. It's completely free. So definitely recommend checking that out. But yeah, that's where everybody can find me. And I appreciate both of you for having me.
Thanks, Shika. We're definitely going to have you back on perhaps maybe later in this season. So continue all the great work and success. And thanks again.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All
Right, thank
right.
you.
All right, that was, of course, Pro Football Network, and also when you see Gridiron's Jacob Infante. Took a really quick 2-2 break, of course. The NBA has announced their schedule, and the Bulls actually do have a couple of nationally televised games, and also the Eastern Conference Finals will be on Prime this upcoming season. We'll talk about that. And, of course, we'll do some sports media news, as well as CBS announces their NFL announcing teams with no Tony Romo. And also college football around the corner. ESPN has announced their new studio teams and some new faces as well. And so much more. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Chicago Sports Poll Reset. But coming up right after this.
Poof!
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
To Second City Sports with a hashtag Friday Funk Edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me, LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
This is our sports potpourri segment. This is our last break of the show for today and for the week. So any last minute questions or comments on any of the subjects we have discussed on the show thus far today, Cubs, Sox, Bears. We'll get into the Bulls and the rest of the NBA with the schedule coming up in just a moment, along with some other sports media news. If you have any questions or comments regarding those subjects, this is our last break of the show for today and for the week. So get in that comment section right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
The Bulls and the NBA announced their schedule yesterday. We won't go through all of them, of course, but we'll just go through the highlights. The Bulls will have 3 nationally televised games this season. I think that's kind of more than I think we thought that they would have. The first will be December 1st as they host the reigning NBA champion Knicks. That'll be on Tuesday, December 1st on NBC. It's going to be a part of their Tuesday doubleheader. And on January 4th, they'll face the Pacers. They're actually going to be playing, I believe, in Ames, Iowa. It'll be Tyrese Halliburton will be back from his Achilles injury. Of course, that's his old stomping grounds in college. That game will be streamed on Peacock. And also, they'll be playing the Nets a couple of weeks later on January 20th. That'll be on ESPN. So Tiago Splitter, new head coach, and his guys will be making a couple of appearances this year. They actually did make a big coaching announcement. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, so like I said, this is like a couple more than I thought that they would get. But even still, a nice, actually a little bit. You'll get to see Caleb Wilson and Matas Buzzels and the rest of that group for the Bulls.
Yeah, and I know the Bulls are not expected to do well this year, but putting Caleb Wilson on TV a couple of times, he'll get the respect that he deserves if he performs up to his capabilities. As you mentioned with him and Matas Buzzell, as long as the Bulls are competitive, I think that's what you hope for from this young Bulls squad as they quietly start the rebuild with Bryson Graham at the helm. A couple more days to pass along for the Chicago Bulls for this upcoming 2026-2027 season. They'll start the year on Wednesday, October 21st at Toronto at 6:30. Of course, 3 days later, it will be the home opener on Saturday night, October 24th against the Washington Wizards. Of course, the home opener on the October 24th will be an emotional one because they're going to honor Stacey King, who passed away earlier this offseason.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a nice showing there as well. So, and I believe if I'm not mistaken, I think November is when they first go to face Io DeSumo, of course, in Minnesota. So that's also going to be a pretty emotional, game for that one as well. So that should be a fun game there. Now, going to the coaching part of it real quick.
Real quick, LaKeena.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, LaKeena, but just on the Bulls before we move on. LeBron James and the Philadelphia 76ers will visit the United Center twice, I believe once in January and once in March, I believe. So if you have that in front of you, please pass it along. But I saw that yesterday. So during the month, I believe January and I believe again in March, Philadelphia will make 2 appearances at the United Center this year. So the tickets are going to be hot for that one. It could be LeBron James's last 2 visits to the city of Chicago.
Just to get this out the way real quick, of course, the Bulls have hired Jordan Brick as the new assistant coach and director of player development. This is according to Hoops Hype. Brick helped win a championship to the Knicks and the assistant to Mike Brown, and also was assistant coach for Detroit. So this is a guy that's been around for a while, and this is a guy that is beloved by a lot of his peers. Of course, I know Mike Brown loves him. I know this is a big loss for the Knicks, but even still, of course, it's a big opportunity. He gets Tiago Splitter gets a guy with a lot of coaching experience, and of course, even in his young career, he's only 47. So yeah, it should be a nice pickup for the Bulls. Julie here, just some of the highlights. Of course, the NBA Christmas schedule. Of course, there's a quintuple header, if you will, of games. Here, of course, you got all will be on ABC, and also it can be streamed on ESPN as well. San Antonio and the Knicks, that'll be the rematch of the NBA Finals. We'll I'm sure Wemby and the Spurs will have revenge on the mind for that one. That'll be the first game coming up. Miami and Boston. That should be a fun one. Giannis against Jason Tatum. That should be a fun one too. LeBron and the 76ers going back to Los Angeles as they'll face the Lakers. That'll be kind of like the late afternoon going to the early evening game. Then you got OKC in Minnesota. That should be a fun one. And also to cap it off, it'll be Golden State hosting the Nuggets. So that should be a fun one. So a solid quintuple schedule for the NBA Christmas Day games.
Well, they saved face this year because the NFL is going to have a triple header as far as their games are concerned this year. So the NBA, I know that you're going against Bears, Packers, I believe Bills, Broncos, and I forgot the other game for the NFL. But this star pack lineup, which we expect because the NBA loves to show off its stars, especially on Christmas. You mentioned starting up with a rematch of the last year's finals, which was very competitive. And of course, you follow Giannis Antetokounmpo, aka the Greek Freak, to Boston. Of course, you got LeBron James if he plays. He'll be returned to one of his former teams against the Lakers. I thought that was going to be a primetime game, but I guess not. But you have the Thunder and the T-Wolves. I thought that game that should have been later afternoon instead of prime time. But what do I know? Of course, you wrap up with the Nuggets and the Warriors, assuming that Steph Curry plays. So you still have a star pack lineup. It should be basketball fans should be kept glued to their TVs. Like you said, we'll see what happens. Just a correction, LaKeena, as far as Philadelphia coming to Chicago to play the Bulls. They'll play the Bulls once in November on the first Sunday in November, and Philadelphia will come back here in the last Saturday in January to face the Bulls. So Philadelphia will make two visits to the United States this year, once in November and then the last time in January. So LeBron James could be making his last two appearances in Chicago this year.
Yeah, so we'll see if that one goes for that. Now, your opener on Prime, and look, a couple other notes from Prime as well. Of course, the opener will be October 23rd. That'll feature the Knicks and the Celtics. That'll be the first game coming up, and also got the Rockets and the Spurs. So those are kind of like to kick things off for the opening night there in the NBA. Also, of course, you got the Emirates NBA Cup. That'll be the knockout rounds will be on December 4th through the 9th. That'll be on Prime. And of course, the championship game will be on Prime as well on December 11th. And also, remember this year with the new TV contract, Prime and NBC alternate between the Eastern Conference Finals this year of this upcoming season in 27. The NBA Eastern Conference Finals will be exclusively on Prime. So I wonder how that's going to go, especially if it's being like this, like Sixers or Knicks or maybe Celtics, Knicks or Celtics 76ers. I mean, there are going to be a lot of people in those cities are going to be a little bit pissed off if they got to watch it on Prime.
Yeah, so you telling me that LeBron James is perhaps his last year in the league. Part of his playoff run would be exclusively on streaming. Go figure. But like you always said, this is the world we live in. We're in a technology age. Welcome to it. We just had to deal with it.
Yeah. So that's a tough one for them for that one, and also like I said, go figure with that one. So yeah, that's gonna be I don't know. That's gonna be very interesting. This once that comes up, like I said, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see how that's gonna go. But yeah, so as far as teams that are gonna be making the most appearances, of course, the Knicks and the Spurs and the Sixers and the Lakers. Yes, I just said that they're all tied with 34 games. That'll be nationally televised from ABC, ESPN, NBC, Prime, and Peacock, followed by the Thunder and the Nuggets and the Warriors at 28 apiece. So, yeah. So I have a feeling that especially with the Lakers, especially if they don't do well, I think some of those games are going to get flexed out, I think. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's kind of like your list with that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the NBA has done it before with certain teams, and they'll do it again. Trust me. So, like I said, none of this is surprising to us. It should be another exciting season, except for here in Chicago. So, we can't wait for basketball season to start. One question for you, LaKeena, before we move on off the court: the Lakers were sold for record 112 billion dollars to a former chair of Disney Entertainment, Bob Iger. You know who his wife is. Miss Willow Bay, formerly of Inside Stuff from back in the day. So she's part of the ownership group now of the Los Angeles Lakers. Of course, Mark Walter and his group sold it over the weekend. Now he's under investigation. As LaKeena will always say, Google is your friend for that. But this investigation may be ongoing for a while. But as of right now, Bob Iger is your new owner of the Los Angeles Lakers. This news really came out of nowhere over the weekend. We didn't get a chance to talk about on our last show, but I want to get your quick thought or two about this transaction.
Shout out to Roman Shepherd who broke this news. Of course, also Joshua Kushner. He's also part of that ownership group as well, along with Mr. Iger. And I mean, $12.5 billion. That's an all-time high value for a professional sports franchise. I mean, of course, Jeannie Buss is expected to remain involved as a team's governor. How much of a say will she have? Who knows? Of course, this is pending on the NBA Board of Governors approval. But I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with this. I mean, look, we know Iger's been around for a long time. He's been around sports, of course, being at Disney for so many years. So, he kind of knows the ins and outs. Like I said, of course, Willow Bay will probably, he might ask her for advice. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes, especially once it becomes official and how much will they spend. But yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, you listen to Second City Sports on Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you. Let's go back to the NFL quickly. We'll give you the rundown of some of the scores from last night as the NFL preseason opens up. The Bengals beat the Detroit Lions by 216-14. The Steelers dominate the Packers in the unofficial Aaron Rodgers Bowl, 28-9. The Colts and the Patriots ended up with a 13-13 tie. The San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles, as we call them on this show, they blow out the Houston Texans 27-7. I saw a little bit of this game last night. Cardinals beat the Raiders by the score of 27-14. Fernando Mendoza looked good last night, even though it was preseason action. He looked very good. Kirk Cousins looked good as well, scoring a touchdown in his opening drive. And the Tennessee Titans, they take care of the 49ers out by the Bay, 19-13. And Robert Saleh's head coaching debut as a Titans coach.
Going back to the Cardinals Raiders game, of course, Jeremiah Love, of course, the rookie running back for the Cardinals, looked really good too. He had 58 rushing yards and 11 carries, so solid. Mendoza looked solid. So, like I said, I think at this point, you just want to see how these rookies are going to do, especially those back end rookies. So, this is sort of like what they're about. So, I saw a little bit of that game yesterday. It was actually pretty solid. I saw the opening drive by Cousins for the TD. So yeah, like I said, it looks good. Drew Aller looked good too. So like I said, Luke Altmaier looked pretty solid too. So I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how these rookies will do and such. But good to see that. Your schedule for tonight, you got Denver and Atlanta. That's gonna be on ESPN Unlimited at 6:00 tonight. And you got the Jets hosting the Bucks. That'll be on NFL Network, and of course also Miami versus Washington. We'll see that. Of course, the Bears. It'll be on NFL Network, but it's going to be on Fox 32. So yeah, unfortunately, you're gonna it's going to be blacked out here in Chicago on NFL Network. So, but you won't be able to watch on Fox Chicago 32. Carolina and Buffalo, Minnesota and the New York Giants. That'll be on ESPN Unlimited. Your NFL Network, second NFL Network triple header. You got the Rams and Kansas City, Jacksonville and New Orleans. That'll be on ESPN Unlimited, as well as Philadelphia and Baltimore. And to cap off tomorrow's schedule, you got the Cowboys and the Seahawks. That'll be on NFL Network on the net cap for tomorrow night.
You listen to Second City Sports on Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you in our sports potpourri segment on the hashtag Friday Fun edition of the program, as Pat McAfee would say. Staying with the NFL, LaKeena has some news to share with us as the NFL and CBS will announce their new television crew for the NFL, covering the NFL for this excuse me, for this upcoming 2026 season, which does not, I repeat, does not include Tony Romo.
We'll get to the Romo stuff in a second, but of course, JJ Watt has been promoted to the lead crew with Jim Nance and Tracy Wolfson. Then you've got Iron Eagle, of course, Ross Tucker, who has been, doing this for about 20 years now. He's been at CBS since 23, but he's been doing this for like the last 20 years or so. So it's good to see him.
Yeah,
get
Westwood One Radio. Yeah.
Yep. So it's good to see him. Of course, he and Eagle do have worked together before at Westwood One, so there's definitely a nice rapport there and continuity there too. Of course, Evan Washburn will have that about that crew. The rest of the team is pretty much the same for the most part. Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, and Melanie Collins. Once again, Logan Ryan, who we said would get promoted, once with Andrew Catalong and AJ Ross. So no surprise here that he got the promotion too. Of course, one of our favorites is Spiro Diaz. He and Marshall and Aditi Kabalabla are paired again. This is like their fourth year together. So good to see that. Tom McCarthy's back. Robert Turbin will make his debut, and also of course Tiffany Blackman as well. Also, Darius Slay will be a part of the other NFL pregame show, and also you could probably see him perhaps maybe on the big NFL Today crew. Of course, they added Russell Wilson and Kyle Long, but you may see Darius Slay there too. So, but yeah. The big update from Tony Romo is that the CBS Sports president has said that, there's no timetable on when Tony Romo might be back. So take that as you will.
Yeah, as we said in the last couple of shows, if they can work their magic to get out of that contract, they will do so for this year. Have a seat.
Yep. So, So really, for the most part, that's all. That like I said, there were, of course, the big change at the top. The top three, and four. But most of it's pretty much status quo for CBS. So, that'll be interesting. I'm sure they'll have the matchups of what these crews will be doing coming up. But yeah, those are kind of like the gist of what's going on over at CBS right now.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago City. LaKeena here with you. We still have a couple more minutes left. I know, LaKeena, in about a couple of weeks, we'll preview the college football season for 2026. And ESPN has announced their new college football studio team. It includes some familiar names and some new names as well.
Yeah, some of the like I said, we talked about it last week. Of course, their crew. These are their studio shows that are going to be coming up this year. Really, some of the big changes here, of course, these are going to be Thursday matchups here. Of course, Sam Acho, who had a cup of coffee here with the Bears. He'll be teaming with Kevin Collins. Also, E.J. Manuel, former standout quarterback for Florida State. He'll be a part of that crew as well as Thursdays, as well as Fridays, too. Of course, him and Acho and Sam will be teaming up with Alyssa Lang. That was a big rumor, of course. Also, Saturdays, Kevin Nagandi, Burt McFarland are now going to be joined by Jordan Rogers, who, of course, have been a mainstay over at the SEC Network. The top crew there on the Saturdays. Now he'll be going to the studio on ABC. Of course, Saturdays on ESPN, of course, Connors and Alyssa will be joining EJ Manuel and Joey Galloway on the Saturdays on ESPN, ESPN2, and also College Football Final, of course, will consist of Kevin Connors, EJ, and Joey Galloway. So some new faces and new places, also some promotions. So, Sid, what do you think about this crew?
You know that I'm not the biggest college football fan in the world, but I do watch some of the studio shows. I really do. But I've been impressed by EJ Manuel in the last couple of years. Now it's starting to see that he's getting rewarded, and rightfully so. But interested to see how Jordan Rogers will fit in with Kevin Nagandi and Booger McFarland on Saturdays on ABC, because I like the tandem of Nagandi and Farland. They have a good rapport, and they don't take themselves too seriously, but at the same time, they give the information that you need, and it's not quite, but almost fast paced. But I don't think that and Jordan Rogers is going to be a bad thing. So I can't say it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. But I'm interested to see how this goes, because you will get that rapport of former players between Rogers and Booger McFarland.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see. And I also will see how Jordan Rogers does doing too. He does studio stuff with SEC Network, but he's mostly done, like I said, call games. So the fact that he's going to be going to the studio full time, I think he's still going to be doing Friday games, but he's going to be doing more studio stuff. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. AJ Mayo's star's been on the rise over there. I know he was at SEC Network for the first 2-3 years since its existence. I remember him at Florida State. I remember Bobby Bowden, the late great Bobby Bowden, may he rest in peace, said that AJ Mayo was always a great communicator, and he majored in communications. He said that he's wanted to do this, so now his star is rising on ESPN. So I'm happy for him. He's on the big kids table now, as I call it. So you're gonna be seeing a lot and hearing a lot more of him this year. So this is very deserving of this opportunity. He's terrific at it. So I'm glad that he's getting the shot to go to like the big kids table, and also Lisa Lang too. Because I've been a big fan of her since she was on SEC Network. I'm glad that of course she's done some NBA, she's done some NBA and also college hoops as well this past season. So see her start on the rise too. So this is a solid studio gang here. So we'll be seeing a lot of these folks coming up in a few weeks, just a few weeks from now.
Yep. I know we're getting ready to wind down the show, but just a reminder for those of you that are listening and watching us here in Chicago live and in living color. Tomorrow, the Bears and Browns are preseason opener from Soldier Field can be seen locally here in Chicago on Fox 32. Adam Amin, Stacey Dales, and Jim Miller will be on the call for that one. They can be seen nationally outside of Chicago, as LaKeena mentioned earlier, on NFL Network. The local pregame show in Chicago will start at 11 o'clock on Fox 32 tomorrow. With the whole crew, Sam Paniavich, Devin Caney, and Miss Cassie Carlson, also a friend of the show. So full Bears coverage tomorrow. LaKeena, real quick, I know we got to get out of here, but what are you looking forward to tomorrow in the Bears-Browns preseason opener for Chicago?
I probably won't see a single minute of this. Like I said, I'm just like, okay, look, Tyson Bagent, I know he's going to get the start, so I'm seeing like how he looks, because if he doesn't look good, I think he could be, traded or maybe going bye-bye. We talked about it with Jacob earlier. I want to see how Malik Muhammad does. I'm sure he's going to get a lot of shots. There's also Xavier Woods too, especially now that Kobe Bryant is done for the year, essentially. It'll be interesting to see what those back end guys, step up and see what they can do. Ruben Hypollet, the second, we'll see, and then linebacking core, if he can stand out as well. So I'll keep an eye on it. But like I said, I think it's really the defense what I'm looking forward to, especially since, we know that they're still a little bit shorthanded. You won't see a lot on the offensive side. We'll get to the whole thing about Ben Johnson and his comments about wanting to be the biggest scoring, most points ever, whatever he said. I kind of take issue with that, but we'll get to that, down the line. But I think for me, it's just everyone look good and just avoid getting hurt. I think that's really the key of a lot of these preseason games. If you're the Bears or any team for that matter.
Yeah, I'm watching for these two players tomorrow. You should start one of the names, Malik Muhammad. I'm looking forward to see what he could bring to the field, and especially in that depleted secondary for Chicago. And on the offensive side, Jacob Infante mentioned this guy's name in our interview with him, Xavier Thomas, the rookie wide receiver. I want to see how his route running has progressed, because he's been getting great rave reviews in training camp, and I want to see how his hands are running those routes as well. So I'm watching for those two players tomorrow. As I mentioned, tomorrow's game can be seen locally on Fox 32, nationally on NFL Network, and we'll have your quick post-game wrap-up to start off the show coming up in our next episode on Monday.
All right, and also going back to the NBA real quick. This took them long enough, but Minnesota Timberwolves will retire Kevin Garnett's number 21 jersey after they face Boston, which is another one of his former clubs. Of course, he won the championship there on February 28th. The team announced on Friday it'll be just the second jersey that they've retired before the 15-time All-Star after the Celtics did it back way back in 22. So kind of a little late here, but yeah, I know that now that they got a new ownership group, of course, led by Alex Rodriguez. I think now things are starting to kind of go right by them, but it should be a fun day at the Target Center on February 28th, so that should be a fun one. There also, of course, Naismith Hall of Fame ceremony for the Basketball Hall of Fame. induction ceremony will be tomorrow night. That'll air on NBA TV. Of course, just some of the inductees for this year. Of course, you got Amari Stoudemire, Candace Parker, Doc Rivers, Mike D'Antoni, Mark Few, Shamika Holtzclaw, Alea Dillon, and the 96 U.S. Women's National Team, of course, have won the gold medal down in Atlanta. That changed the landscape of course, women's basketball. So it will be very interesting to see who the speeches and such. So of course, you can catch the ceremony on NBA TV coming up tomorrow at, I believe it's at 7. No, it's like 8. Yeah, it's at 7 o'clock. Well, 6 o'clock our time. Of course, that's when the ceremony. So you guys can check that. We'll give you guys our Siskel and Ebert reviews of some of the speeches and stuff coming up on Monday.
Yeah, referee Joey Crawford going in. He'll be forever remembered as kicking Tim Duncan out of a game because Tim Duncan gave him a smirk look on the sidelines. Interesting. And for that, it gets you in the doors to a Basketball Hall of Fame.
I guess we'll see if Duncan's still laughing about that. So you can check that. You guys can check that out on at 6 o'clock. You can record it if you're, and it also posts all the speech on YouTube as well. So if you miss it, don't worry. You can just go to the NBA's YouTube channel to have it right there for you. Now, as far as WNBA is concerned, if you're into that, I believe the Sky. I think their next game, I believe, is on. I gotta double check, but I think it's on Sunday against the Storm. Yeah, it's going to be in Seattle against the Storm. It looks like they are going to miss despite them actually showing a little bit of life, they are going to miss the playoffs. They're kind of their season starting to wind down. Talking about WNBA, so if you want to check it out, you can. I believe, I think they're going to be eliminated from playoff contention. Eventually within the next week or so. So if you want to watch the Seattle Storm game, it's on the League Pass. You can check it out if you want to.
All right. It's time to get up out of here, LaKeena. A big weekend for both our baseball teams, both the Cubs and the Sox and the Bears will kick off their preseason schedule tomorrow against the Cleveland Browns. And then lone home preseason contest because, as I said earlier, the next 2 weeks they'll finish out their preseason schedule on the road. So big weekend for Chicago sports.
Well, sports in general, too. Of course, you got the League World Series that's starting right now, the round robin part of it. So you got a lot to choose from here. Of course, you got golf and such. So it's all right there for you. Kind of a fun time of year as we go into mid-August. So with that said, you can follow me at LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, again at IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And if you missed our interview with our new buddy Jacob Infante from Windy City Gridiron, no worries or anything else. Don't worry, you can catch replays, anytime, anywhere on the Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook, YouTube channel, so you can catch replays of our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Buzz. I know they're going to have a lot to say about the NBA schedule coming up tomorrow. Catch the replays anytime we're on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
And like I said, enjoy all the NFL, preseason NFL, MLB as we go into the home stretch of these last 43, 44 games of the season. WNBA, if you're into that, World Series, you got golf, you got tennis, soccer. It's a plethora of sports going on right now this time of year, locally, nationally, internationally. So enjoy all that and just be careful out there and stay dry, folks. Hang in there with the rain. I know it's been raining a lot here in the Midwest the last few days and weeks, but just hang in there, folks. We're going to get to the other side of this, I promise. And just be safe out there. For Sid, I'm LaKeena from Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. We'll see you guys on Monday.
Go Sox! Holla!